It's been an incredible, intense time in this program, I have to say, and I'll just talk a little bit about my experience. I'm a 48-year-old single mother, and I've been going through a major life transition. I have been a dedicated student, and as Barrett said, I've been an organisational development consultant for the last 23 years. Always very prepared and professional, and seeking high quality standards, earning good money. I've owned my own home, and I've had a lot of stability in my life. And several years ago, I came across some of the models that we use in EPC, and met and worked with Dana Carmen, who's also on the faculty of the program. And I started to have this increasing sense of a dissatisfaction with my work and my life. And even though I was successful in what I was doing, the way it was going wasn't consistent with a type of future that was calling to me. So somehow I found the courage to let go, and I basically have let go of my home, my business, my relationship, and even my country for the time being. And I've stopped calling on a way of being that had me succeed in the past. That just doesn't seem to work for me anymore. And it's not that I'm throwing away all my past experience and learning. It's more that I'm allowing a different kind of foundation to unfold, with a commitment and this sort of deep sense and willingness to say yes to my soul's calling, it feels like. And that's made me make some very difficult decisions over the last year and a half, which has been sometimes really scary, I have to say. It feels somewhere like I'm inviting a new version of myself forward, maybe an updated version that's moving into my being. And what I'm finding is that the EPC program is really supporting me to do that. What I've also noticed is that there are different ways of developing and moving through life. And for most of my life, I've tended to be leaning in, kind of grabbing the bull by the horns, moving forward in action, perhaps relating in quite a more masculine way in the world. And where I feel now is a more kind of passive, more receptive kind of path, where I'm allowing and surrendering more to the mystery of what's unfolding, and it feels a lot more feminine actually. And it's more like leaning back in life. And the EPC program and my relationships with the faculty and the people in the cohort have been incredibly supportive with providing support and scaffolding in this transition, and a real safe container where I can let go and even get messy, which is really kind of new for me. Not only have I learned a lot from the actual content of the program, there's a sort of transmission that the faculty have brought, which really have enabled me to really stay in the uncertainty, to relax into and beyond the kind of anxiety of what it's like to be in the not knowing, the kind of gap place that we sometimes feel. And what I'm experiencing is so much more trust in that process of unfolding, and an ability to move through this transition with a much more generative and creative kind of mindset. And I feel like I'm kind of allowing the next evolutionary step to emerge somewhere at the intersection between my unique and most creative capacities and gifts with my passions and what's really important to me to express in the world, and meeting that with what life is really calling from me, to do in the world. And I'm still in it, there's no doubt about that. And I feel like I'm transforming in all kinds of different ways. For others that can relate to this and feel the need for perhaps a raft to get you to the other shore, the EPC program is great. It's great for that. There are quite a few of us going through this kind of transition in the program, and it's like the guy ropes when you're mountain climbing, or the pittons that kind of help guide you along the way. I'm also a mother to a 10-year-old girl who's going through a prepubescent stage of life, and I'm experiencing some incredible challenges there. And the EPC has really helped me hone some important skills, things like perspective taking, where I really put myself in her shoes and look at the world through her eyes and look at myself through her eyes, which is sometimes surprising. And another skill, perspective seeking, where I'm actually inquiring into her world by asking questions and deeply listening to her. And also asking other people, seeking advice from friends with and without children, her school teachers and counsellor, and we've even started going to a therapist who specialises in the tween teen stages, because I'm sort of feeling this is a new experience and I'd really like some help. Just the other day, she was angry and frustrated because she was putting in her new earrings, and we were starting to be late for school again. And I could feel kind of this heat moving through my body and the tension rising, and this impatience that I was experiencing with this growing concern that she has for how she looks and what she wears to school. And my comments to her to hurry up and, just don't worry about it, just didn't help at all. In fact, she turned around and looked at me and actually almost screamed with tears in her eyes, get out, you're no help at all. And it was just awful. And what I was able to do in that moment, and I think a lot of it is what I've learned in EPC, was to just stop and sense into her world and try and imagine what she was feeling. And she's at a new school in a new country, and she's finding it hard to make friends at the moment. And I thought, that's a really tough place to be in. And in addition to that, she moves in life at a very different pace to me. So I kind of remembered all that in the moment, and I remembered that when I rush her, it often has the opposite effect. And developmentally, I also knew that what she was doing was completely normal. So this time, not all the time, but this time I was able to stop and find compassion and to be able to speak more gently to her and help her and have the access to the love in my heart, which of course I have for her. And we were able to get through that morning in a much better way. I've also created some strategies with the teacher about being late and given her more of the responsibility of that in the mornings. So I really see that she's here to remind me about all aspects of life. And instead of resisting or turning away from some of those challenges and difficulties, I'm learning more and more to embrace them all. As my EPC mentor says, to develop and create more friendliness with all of consciousness, which I really love. I love that saying. So the skills and ways of being that I'm actually learning in EPC, I find, are extremely transferable. Participants in my own leadership trainings have often commented in the fact that we're not only teaching them skills they can use in the workplace, but these are life skills. And I think EPC is really about that. Not so long ago, I was co-leading a workshop with a group of middle managers, and it was so obvious that many of them just didn't want to be there. So instead of sticking to this planned agenda that we had, we turned and faced the resistance, and we gave the group an opportunity to express their frustrations. And we listened and spoke into some of the commitments that were underlying their complaints. And it was remarkable what happened and the turnaround that happened in that room. For example, a woman was bitterly complaining about the turf wars that were happening in the organisation. And it really masked her commitment and her need for collaboration and teamwork and her deep care for the organisation and its goals and what they were trying to achieve. The group itself reported that they never felt so understood And then we were quickly able to go back to the original agenda with their full partnership. So it was a big turnaround. And this way of being is really part of a new foundation that I'm creating moving forward, which really, as Barrett said, helps me see more broadly and widely and deeply into situations that are in front of me and within myself, so that I can really intervene in a powerful way to support the people I'm working with. And then when I think back to my initial attraction to the EPC program, I was so enlivened by the possibility to contribute to something really meaningful in the world and to co-create with you guys a kind of community and ecosystem. And I felt this deep invitation to be a co-creator of something new in this space. And that's exactly what I've experienced and what's been happening. And I just want to finish with a short poem that by David White that really speaks to the heart of my experience in EPC so far. And it's called The Journey. And he says, sometimes everything has to be inscribed across the heavens so you can find the one line already written inside you. It means a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So what I'd like to do now is shift to both the vision and the nuts and bolts.